Hi, my name is Peter Larkum, and this is Mentality Meets. So today we have Mandy Hickson with us today. So she is one of the UK's first F1 fighter pilots, and we're going to be talking about mental health. Now, so often we talk about poor mental health, but today we're going to be talking about positive mental health, the impact that positive mental health can have in the context of feeling that fear and doing it anyway, and the impact that that can have. So this is Mentality Meets. I hope you enjoy it. So today on Mentality Meets, I am Peter Larkum, and this is Mandy Hickson. And Mandy is our guest speaker today. And we're going to be talking all things mental health, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We have no idea where this conversation is going to take us. With it being live, we've had a little bit of a pre-session chat, and it has already gone all over the place. So what I need you to therefore do as guests on this session is to please look after yourselves. We have no idea about where you are in your mental health journey. We don't know whether you are struggling. We don't know whether you are doing well. We don't know whether you have experienced mental health illnesses in the past or whether you're experiencing mental health illnesses now. We don't have any of this information. So please look after yourselves with the topics that we may be exploring. If you need some help and support, in a moment, I will introduce you to your chat bar. You can send a chat to everybody, or you can send a private chat to me. So if you are struggling as we go through some of these topics and you just want to send me a private message, please feel free to do so. If you need to access professional help, please can I encourage you to contact the Samaritans on 116 123. So that's the Samaritans on 116 123. There's also a text service where you can text shout to 85258. And somebody will then get back in contact with you and be able to talk with you about whatever it is that's going on. Now, also on Mentality Meets, we're promoting or pushing an organisation or website called the hubofhope.co.uk. Now, with the Hub of Hope, you can put in your postcode and it will show you the mental health provision for your local area. This is brilliant if you're supporting someone on the other side of the country, because it means you can put their postcode in and find all the mental health provision on their local area. So do look after yourselves as we go through this session. But let's kind of just kick off in the chat bar. So a couple of questions that I would like to ask. Question number one, what is your name? Question number two, where in the country are you? And Mandy, what is question number three for our audience today? What would you like to know about our audience?
I want to know, is it camping or five-star hotel?
Oh, so this summer, what's your plan for the summer holiday? Camping, caravan, or five-star hotel?
Yeah.
I like it. So if you can, start kind of sending some messages out on the chat bar. And while that is going off, Mandy, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and what your life journey has been? And then we will carry on with our conversation.
Yeah, because we've only got half an hour. No, I'm only joking.
I know.
It's literally 2 minutes. Former Royal Air Force Tornado GL4 pilot. I used to like that mighty beast in the background. Left the Air Force in 2011, having served for 16 and a half years. And then basically continued to fly in as the volunteer reservist, to fly cadets. From the Air Training Corps to try to encourage them into a life in aviation, or certainly to give them a look-see into the military. I set up my own business, looking at experience from the front line. I went into the motivational speaking world. I have 2 teenage boys, and when I compare, yes, lockdown to with teenage boys to being shot at in Iraq, I think I might choose the latter. Yes, so that was probably easier. So there you go. All in a very quick nutshell. That's where I'm up to, Peter.
I love that. That's kind of like literally a whistle-stop tour of your entire life story.
Yeah.
So another question which I have for you. So actually, let's just say hi to our audience today. So Rob, hi in West Sussex, camping, although not for a long time. I like that.
Okay.
Small doses, small doses of camping. Christine says normally in London, but currently in Italy. 5-star hotel. Now,
yeah.
I can't quite tell whether Christine is in a 5-star hotel in Italy. That could be the way that reads, or that she would choose a 5-star hotel when going on holiday. Helen in Oxfordshire says self-catering 4-star cottage in Yorkshire. Marie says 5-star, and then Christine says I wish. So I think it's that she would like to go in a
Yeah, big
5-star
time.
hotel. Not that she is
Yeah.
currently in. So what's yours? Are you a caravan or a 5-star hotel kind of lady?
Caravan every time. Give me camping, give me caravan every time. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, we had a caravan for 10 years. We got rid of it last year. I wept like a
Ah.
child when it towed off into the distance. How about yourself, Peter? What are you?
Well, I grew up camping and caravanning, and my parents are now avid camper vanners. So basically,
Oh,
on a normal
killer.
year, they would disappear just after Christmas and come back just before Easter, and they would
They're
literally
living
just
my
go
dream. They are
and
living my dream.
be off.
Yeah, that's what we're going
Although this time they were off, and then Spain shut
to
down, then France shut down, and then they were
do.
panicking as to whether or not they would get back. So, but yeah, no, they are definitely the campers. My wife, on the other hand, she is a hotelier. So basically, it's now a case of if we can, a hotel is
Yeah,
always the preferred
yeah,
choice.
yeah.
So I have converted over that way. All right, let's kind of ask you some questions then, Mandy, about the world that you've lived in. Now, as a Top Gun fan, I want to know, what are the phrases that you have heard most frequently? Do you ever kind of hear your ego's writing checks your body can't cash? And anyone who's not a Top Gun
Yeah.
fan, this section is going to be really dull and
Yeah.
boring
My
for
favourite
you.
is not to be, I feel the need. The need for
For
speed.
speed, I like it.
And that's how I live my life, because whatever I do, it's skiing, it's as fast as I can go. I love driving fast. I obviously do it within the speed limit at all times, but put me on a go-karting track and I am the most competitive mother on the racetrack, going, taking my sons out in corners, Not that I mean to be, but I did point out I'm beating him on about 20 laps.
Oh, that's awesome. Because what you literally just said in your introduction is, give me a fighter jet any day above parenting 2 teenage sons during lockdown. What
Yeah.
what for you is the stress comparison between those two things? Because surely fighter jets
Do
is
you know
quite a stressful job.
It is. So I think when you're in the military, you're taught to do a job. You practice it, practice it, practice it. You do everything in the simulator. When you actually then go on operations, you are following process, protocols, everything set in place. And when things happen, you're again taught how to deal with them. And that's one of the brilliant things about the military and your training. I think life, you can't follow the process for, and spanners get thrown in the works all the time. And I mean, I would say my husband, I've got a really wonderful relationship with my husband. We're very, very close. He's the best wingman anybody could ever have, except he was in the Navy, but I won't hold that against him. Yeah, so we've got a really strong relationship, and all I can say is thank goodness for that, Peter, because my 2 boys have put us through the mill. It's almost if it was a tick box exercise of what can we do, in the mess up stakes, literally, that even daily. Yesterday was the latest one. We're like, oh, we hadn't had that one yet. Brilliant, we can tick that one off. But, every single day it's a curveball for what's next. And, I just felt that stress bucket getting fuller and fuller and fuller, as did so many people. And, that I think the perfect phrase for this whole lockdown has been the Corona coaster. And it's been like riding that Corona coaster. I don't know about any of you guys out there, but, at times, in lockdown when it was sunny, we were going, okay, let's get up, let's go for a walk. I feel good. And then actually you hit real, genuine low points. And I think it's about accepting that when you do, and, and talking to people about it.
You know what? I think that's a really interesting point. And come on then, audience, where are you on this whole roller coaster of emotions and feelings? Because I don't think it's stopped yet. I think there is still the excitement of I got my hair cut, so that's an excitement for anyone who is a regular on Mentality Meets. It was literally getting to a point where I looked like a bear dragged through a bush backwards. It was seriously bad. And the excitement of that, but also the concern around, hold on, these people have full kind of masks and everything else, and should I actually be going out and socializing and meeting people, and is that allowed? And now that I go back into town, it's almost as if there's nothing going on anymore? And are we saying that it's gone? There's all of this kind of going on all over the place. So yeah, let me go for a scale of 1 to 5 on this. Scale of 1 to 5, 1 being really low. Actually, today I'm really feeling it. Didn't want to get out of bed, and could just do with literally going back to bed right now. Done. 2, 5, brilliant. Great day. Really enjoying it. Where are you for today? So that's going to be my question going out to everyone else. And I want to come back to the analogy kind of mix that you just kind of put together about the tick boxes with your sons, and the process that it's brought up. Because what I find fascinating is that everybody's story is different, and yet we are all experiencing so much of the same feelings. And when we start talking about mental health and mental health illnesses and those bad days really having a negative impact on us, in the context of your training as kind of high-level stress job, did you find that you had training to deal with those lows or those anxieties or other things like that?
Yes and no. So actually, when I was in the Air Force, when I say I left in 2011, but I don't think there was much that was around actually in the form of mental health awareness. And certainly once you left, it was almost like you'd pinged out the system. And so people that have been serving in the likes of Afghanistan in particular were really suffering from things like, PTSD. There's a lot of mental health issues. I have lost 4 male friends in their 40s and 50s in the last 3 years, all to suicide, all fast jet pilots. Now, that is absolutely shocking. I mean, that's a travesty, and that's a case of pinging out the system and then really falling off the radar of anyone's, sort of awareness of what's happening with regards to that PTSD and things like that. So training-wise, I don't think there was much in the form of mental health awareness. My own personal training, when you think about things like failure, when you think about challenging environments, I've been there. I failed so many times. And so what it does give you is resilience. And that was something that when I was really digging down inside myself, I kept thinking, when I was at the bottom of that Rollercoaster, a 2, and I was feeling really quite low. And I thought, I feel really pretty miserable. The boys had broken me on a couple of occasions. I say, you may have won this battle, but you have not won the war. Became my little mantra to myself. I would take myself out. I'd take myself out for either a long walk or a bike ride. I would sob a lot. I'd get it all out my system and then come back and not be the victim at home. And I sort of would come back and say, okay, you said I was controlling. Right, let's talk about that. So that's not a natural place for teenage boys when they don't want to speak. But for them to say, Mum, you're just controlling me all the time, I hate it. It was because suddenly we're in lockdown and I suddenly had time on my hands. And they're meant to be educated at home, and they're not being. So I leapt in. I can be your teacher. Well, guess what? They don't want that. And that became this huge point of friction, a screaming row every single morning. And I realized I had to back off. And actually, I found that very, very stressful. But resilience for myself was a case of, okay, talking to my husband, going on these walks. And I kept on just going out and getting in touch with nature. And to me, that is everything. I don't listen to anything. I just walk. We were doing 15-kilometer walks just to get out there. And you come back and it's a form of therapy every single time. That walk, just to download all of your emotions and all your thoughts away from whatever it is that the stressor is. And that's really important for me.
I think that's so key. And it's about being able to acknowledge what's going on, take some time to process it, and then kind of come back fighting, I suppose, and be like, actually, I don't want to just let this sit. I want to find out where this is coming from. I want to learn. I want to overcome it. And I find that really, really fascinating and amazing. So I can't really let go of that 4 people that over the last few years dying by suicide, because we are talking about kind of the mental health and the realities of mental health, and the feeling that, so my understanding of anything armed forces related is literally the TV. So I have no personal experience of this. If you've ever met me, you'll realise it's something I would love to do, but have no strength or capacity to do it. But I mean, watching programs like the SAS, Who Dares Wins, and those kind of push yourself to the extreme kind of things, and the camaraderie that I have as a perception of when you are in the forces, you are literally living and breathing with other people that you would kind of give your life for.
Yeah,
And I find it fascinating because one of the things that we talk about a lot in mental health training is having people that you can talk to.
yeah,
And it does surprise me that from a background of that level of camaraderie and that level of relationship, that there are still people who are feeling unable to talk about it.
yeah.
And I don't really know kind of what the question is in this, but I think, is there any way to still be reaching out to people, or is that very much no? If you're not in the group, you can't ask. But actually,
No, I think it's more than that. I mean, sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to cut you off
no.
there, Peter. Yeah, sort of going back to that. So the camaraderie. So the one thing about the military I love, the one thing about the military I've missed the most, it's not flying the aeroplane. It's the camaraderie. It's the people. And I think when I left the Air Force, I didn't really appreciate just how much I would miss that team ethos. Because as you say, these are your brothers and sisters in arms, you know, and you're sharing so much of yourself, of your emotions with people. I think when I first got to my squadron as a 24-year-old back in 99, 98, there was quite a different mentality. It was a bit more Top Gun-esque, bit more E-class, testosterone, grrr, you know, you could smell the testosterone when you walked into a room. It has changed. You know, I saw it even in my time in the services, it was changing. The guys that were coming through, and girls, very few and far between, but they were starting to talk about their emotions more. And I think that's reflected in society as a whole, thank goodness. But I wonder about the guys that all chose that there was no way out and chose the suicide path, which is just tragic, whether they were still of that eat glass, can't share, sort of it's a weakness feel to it, which, you know what, the fact that we're talking about this now, it's not a weakness. You know, I in my own career have had time off with stress when my brother-in-law died, and I went to the doctor and I just said, I can't cope. And the doctor said, well, it's hardly surprising. Please go and spend time with your family, go recuperate, rebuild. Because you know what, I was at breaking point. And we all have a breaking point, but it's about surrounding yourself, as you just said, that trusted voice, the trusted colleague, companion, finding someone that you can talk to. That's what's so important as well.
Because there's another question which comes to me on this, and basically because of our relationship. So I don't really know you. I know of you much more than I know you. The fact that we've met once is a good thing.
Lovely coffee. Lovely
But
coffee.
actually, we know each other because you and my wife share a hairdresser, and you actually ended up sitting next to each other at the hairdresser. And my wife said, Pete, you really should contact this Mandy person. And that's kind of how our relationship started. So what I'm trying to get at is, if we know someone, either who's been through the armed forces, or and in our pre-chat we were talking about pilots in general at the moment, where there are lots of pilots who are losing their jobs and finding themselves really struggling just because of the way the world has turned. And if we know someone or know of someone, because of that camaraderie mindset, there's something inside of me that says, well, actually, am I the right person to actually say, hey, Mandy, how are you? Or to interject into that conversation and say, look, I'm aware that the world has literally been pulled out from under your feet and it must be really tough. And I just want to check, are you okay? Is it okay for me as a person outside of that little clique to still interject and to still check in on a person? I don't.
Absolutely. I think you don't need a qualification to check in on someone. You have to just care. And, you know, whether we like the likes of social media, Facebook and all the rest of it, you know, obviously there are other mediums available, please, this is not, you know, a pitch. But, you know, it's good in some ways, because I have a lot of my Air Force colleagues, obviously. It's fantastic for that for us. We're all over the UK. Well, I've been loving this 25 press-ups for 25 days to raise the awareness of mental health. And nearly every single one of my colleagues is doing it. And I just think, you know what, they're all saying it's okay to have bad days. It's okay to hold up your hand. You don't need to be qualified. And every single one of these guys is saying, if you want to talk, I'm always here. You know, you don't need permission to just reach out. And it doesn't have to be formalized. You know, it could just be, hey, Lugsy, how are you? Or, you know, whoever it is that you're reaching out to, because we all have bad days. And it's just, you don't want that bad day to become a bad week, to become a bad period of time. You need to speak to people, you need to catch that, and you need to talk about it.
Yeah, no, super. All right, let's go back to the chat, because I'm aware that I asked people about how they're feeling on a scale of 1 to 5, and I haven't even gone back to the chat. So Marie's saying that she's 5-star. Oh no, that's a hotel. Sorry, we're still on the 5-star hotel process, and we're seeing.
Marie was Navy. She's bound to be 5-star.
I kind of jumped straight back into the 5-star hotel. If you missed that part of the conversation, this is going to make no sense to you. But 4.5 from Christine. Rob says, I think I'm coming back up at about a 3 at the moment, but have been really kind of struggling over the last few bits. E. Davey says, I've been a 5 most days. Working from home has kept me busy. And I think busyness is a really good thing. So they say kind of when you're busy, it kind of keeps time moving. But when you're feeling idle, you actually kind of really struggle with time and all of that. And now something I know that you have been doing to kind of keep your time, to keep yourself busy over this lockdown process is you've been volunteering. And you've been volunteering at our local hospital. But I want to ask, and this is a bit of a kind of, I don't know how this is going to come out and still make me sound nice, but I want to ask why have you been volunteering? Why have you kind of felt the need to do that?
What sort of person are you? I mean, are you not? I'm joking. So I think it's twofold, okay? I'd love to be the person that says, it's because I just want to give. You know what? It is twofold. And I think a lot of people, when they do volunteer for things, they're doing it because they want to give something back. And then they realise that that's not actually the only reason they're doing it, because you feel good when you're giving something back. And actually, I've always been the person that runs to a crisis. And there we were. Corona hit, my work fell off a cliff. Literally, I had no work at all. And I thought, oh, I've got no purpose. And we need purpose. Every single person needs a reason to get up in the morning. Most of us actually like a form of routine as well, which I think is why our children have been suffering so much, because routine has gone puff out the window. And it's that whole getting a routine back, getting some sort of establishment of a purpose again. And we volunteered up at the hospital. They said, yeah, we desperately need people in the linen room, in the laundry. And I thought, absolutely, I'm all over that. So basically my husband and I were doing it. I had to hand over to him. We were not allowed to work together. But all we were doing was folding scrubs for the entire shift, out the washing machine, into the tumble dryer and folding them. And there's a shortage there. But you know what? It felt great to be doing something. So not only was I helping, not only did I get that feeling of I'm running towards the crisis, but in an official manner, I'm also getting something back myself, because actually it feels good to be doing something. And I think that's really, really important to establish that in your own mind as well, that if we do suddenly have time on our hands, what can we do to help other people at that time? Because it's incredibly rewarding itself, you know.
No, I think it's really key. And it's one of the things that comes up through, if you've ever come across it, the Action for Happiness, which is a website, www.actionforhappiness.org. And the first letter is G for give. And the idea is that if you see someone who has a need and you can provide for that need, it actually makes you feel good. And yes, it will make them feel good because you've provided for their need, but actually there is something about the giving process that does give back to you, it's just a fascinating mindset on that. So just want to kind of catch up. So Marie was saying to you about a 2 this morning, but a long walk and listening to all of this brings us back up to a 5. Good old chat, Marie. Thank you. So another question going out to our audience. I want to ask, do you know someone or something that could do with you giving to it? So whether this is a friend or a family member or a colleague or an organization that just needs a little bit of extra help, do you know of something or someone where you are able to just give to you've seen a need somewhere in your community, and you're able to give. Can you kind of write that down on the chat bar, because I want to come back to that. Oh my gosh, look, it's 3:24. We've got 6 minutes, Mandy. So I want to ask, oh gosh, what do I want to know? I want to know so much more about you. So, okay, if there is one thing that you want our audience to take away in the context of maintaining, so it's that feeling the fear and doing it anyway, that kind of, how do we, if we're struggling with our mental health, how do we begin to build this routine and push ourselves through that? Do you have any kind of tips or ideas in the context from your lived experience?
Yeah, I do actually. And I think, a lot of us fear failure. That's a really big one. And actually, just worrying so much about what the outcome might be stops us from even doing what it was in the first place. And I'll share a 2-minute story with you about a girl I was flying, 15-year-old, as an air cadet, took her flying in an aeroplane to basically do an air experience flight with the cadets. She walked out, she's grumpy, she gets into the aircraft, but barely getting any conversation out of her. She's a classic teenage girl, a lot of eye makeup on as well, which is concerning. I was wondering under G-force if it might weigh her eyebrows, eyelashes down, But we flew this trip, and she was the most natural pilot I've ever flown with. And we landed and we were taxiing in, and I just said to her, wow, you are unbelievable. And she said, oh, but you just said it to everyone, it's your line, And I said, it's not my line. You are really, really talented. Is it something you want to do? And she just said to me, it's something I've always wanted to do. I was so scared of giving it 100%. I was so scared of basically exposing herself, because what happens if we give it 100% and then we fail? That's way worse than protecting yourself by not engaging in it fully. And I said, you can't live your life like that. As a youngster, and I love this analogy that when we're young, you ask a youngster what they want to do. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a fast jet pilot. Our blinkers are off. And as we get older, our blinkers get smaller and narrower and narrower and narrower. And in the end, you end up going, well, I couldn't do that. I wouldn't be able to do that. And you talk yourself out of things all the time. So feel the fear and do it anyway. That whole SAS thing, it's really, really important, because actually that's where we get so much gain, when we're operating at the edge of our capabilities, perhaps outside of our comfort zone. And I was doing quite a lot of work recently all about adaptability, and it said become comfortable with being uncomfortable. I thought, God, that's a really interesting one, isn't it? That you're operating outside your comfort zone, but you're becoming used to that as a norm. And this is not a plug, and it really is not a plug for my book, by the way, Peter, but one of the really, really interesting things, and it's genuinely not, but I wrote a book, and it took 3.5 years to do. And on the day that I got it out and put it onto Amazon, my husband went, oh my God, I'm so proud, I'm so excited, this is unbelievable. And I felt horrific. And he said, what, you're not basically reacting as I would expect you to. And he said, I don't understand what's going on. And up to that point, it had been a project, and I'm a really good completer of projects, follow the process, get the job done. And suddenly I'd released my autobiography, and I went, oh my gosh, everyone's going to judge me, everyone's going to read my story. What happens if they don't like it? Everyone's telling me I'm inspiring, that I'm funny. What happens if they're don't find the book inspiring? It's not inspiring or funny, it's just my story. And I got absolutely racked by worrying what other people would think. So much so, I went under the radar for 2 days, barely responded to stuff. Loads of stuff was coming in on Facebook, on Twitter. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And I was just feeling dreadful about it. And I kept thinking, this is awful. And I just thought you've got to be honest about your emotions. And it took me a while to place it as to why I was feeling like that. But when we expose ourselves and we give a raw emotion, then that's when we get the true gain back as well.
I think that's just a fascinating and brilliant place to end. And so just want to kind of come into the last bit of the chat and just acknowledge kind of Rob's thing about kind of a partner really struggling right now, just need some help. And so just needing to do as much as I can to help them. And I kind of feel that. I don't know what the situation is, but I'm with you in spirit there, Rob, because that's tough. And sometimes the ones who are the closest to us are the hardest ones sometimes to support, because we We love them so much. But just kind of coming back to the plug, now I'm going to plug your book. So if you haven't realised, Mandy has a book out. It's called The Officer, Not a Gentleman, which I think is just a brilliant title. I did do some LinkedIn posts about it, and it's there. If you are interested, do go and have a look at it. But you know what? We are literally at our 3:30 cut-off time, and I'm very aware that a lot of people take time out to come on these calls and then need to disappear again. So, you know, it is 3:30. Thank you so much for joining us for Mentality Meets. I have been Peter Larkum. This has been Mandy Hickson. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Okay, so that's the official ending. But you don't have to log off if you don't want to. But Mandy, thank you so much for your time today. And I love that kind of finishing off analogy about kind of you have to kind of give of yourself. You have to kind of give to the best of your ability. Because certainly for me, fear of failure was something that crippled me for years. Until I set up my own company and was like, oh, rubbish, now I've got to succeed at this. I've got to keep pushing at it. And here I am 11 years later, which is quite brilliant. But how was that for you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, no, it's lovely. I mean, you know, I could talk for hours. As anyone that knows me, you know, it's almost like how do you cram things down? But it's a genuinely really important subject, and I think you're doing a fantastic thing. And I think, you know, that whole process that we talked about in the prequel to this bit, you know, of saying actually it's about connecting people. It's about talking about it, especially during this period. It's so important.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. And so if anyone wants to kind of connect with Mandy, please feel free to do so. If you want to connect with me, that is also absolutely okay. But you know what? Let's call it a day and say, Mandy, thank you so much for your time. Everyone else who's on the call, take care. God bless. And bye-bye now.
Okay. Good luck, Rob. Okay.
Thanks.